Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining another Ironside Take 30. If you follow the Ironside Take 30 with a data scientist before on Tuesdays, thank you for finding your way over here to the Thursday sessions. So we're now going to be rotating through the data science, the BI experts, and the data advisor sessions. So I put up here the schedule. You've probably been on the website and seen it, but I just wanted to highlight it. Specifically, the next data science session, if you have specific interest in that, will be September 10th. So thank you for joining. I'm Pam Asgar. I'm the Director of Data Science at Ironside, and today we're going to be doing an industry focus on insurance. A few weeks ago, we did this with higher ed, and I think it's nice to really dig into a specific industry and see which use cases have been really successful and what people are doing with AI in that industry. So that's what we'll be going through today. Let me just click over. So the reminder, Ironside is a data and analytics consulting firm, and our mission and everything we do is to help our clients use data to make better decisions about their business. We started doing these sessions, when COVID hit, really just to make our experts available to you, to offer some of our expertise, some of our insight, and be here for questions and answers. So please remember that you can put a question in the chat box at any time, and at the end we'll leave time for Q&A so we can go through anything you wanted to talk about. You can also go and sign up for individual one-on-ones on the website as well. So also as a reminder of who we are, we have centers of excellence or practice areas. I sit in data science, but we really have experts across the entire lifespan of data and analytics. And so we have capability in advising on strategy and then design, building, and deploying, as well as governing and managing long-term. So that's why we like to rotate these sessions through several different areas of expertise. So today, a brief agenda. I'm going to talk about some of the broad trends in insurance and AI, and then I'll go through 4 areas where we've seen AI being successfully implemented, and then just get to some key takeaways. So first of all, AI is definitely causing a disruption in the insurance industry. This is one of the industries where it's not just starting, it's really already got traction and moving full steam ahead. Insurance has a lot of data, it's data rich, and people are used to using data and doing analytics. There's also a lot of processes, and we'll talk about how that is really key for AI and a great opportunity to help move data through all of the different processes that they have. And one of the things that we're seeing is insurtechs. So if you're familiar with the term fintech, insurtechs are popping up all over to help provide competitive prices and solve some of the more common challenges in insurance, and using AI to do so and other types of technology. So 2018 saw $700 million invested in insurtech companies. So sometimes these are competitive to the larger, more traditional insurance providers. Sometimes they're collaborative and work together, and sometimes the larger companies will then buy up that AI approach or that technology that they build up and incorporate it as well. But in any case, it's really helping to kind of push the need and the demand for AI in order to stay competitive in this industry. Now, some things like natural language processing, image detection, computer vision, we're going to talk about these a lot because insurance, while it's data rich, it's unstructured data rich too. There's a lot of handwritten text, there's a lot of images. And so natural language processing, image detection, these can really help solve a lot of those problems. And one of the benefits of them is they're what we would call broad AI. So you can train a model to figure out handwriting, right? And know that this is an A and a B, etc. That can be applied to any number of problems. Whereas most AI is what we call narrow. You train a model to solve a very specific problem, and it solves that problem and not others. But I think that there are many different opportunities in insurance to benefit from NLP and image detection, and that's why it can it's been very, very successful in being used across different use cases and across different problems. Now, the top 4 U.S. insurance providers are using AI today. Definitely jumping on that, and like I said, there's some demand to stay competitive, the need to use AI as well. So smaller companies are benefiting from it, and specialty insurance. So a lot of these broad AI problems are being used in auto insurance and health insurance and P&C, but the more niche you get, the more you need a niche solution and more customized AI. And people are doing that, and companies are benefiting from that in specialty and niche areas as well. Also, there's a lot of third-party data available, so we'll talk about some of that. There's huge opportunities specifically in P&C insurance to bring in additional data to boost AI models and to make it even more accurate. So insurance companies know, and I think they have for a long time, that they're not limited to just what they have internally, and they're already very good at bringing in outside data sources to enrich what they do. So that gives them a step ahead. Convenience is king. I put this in here. This is something I'm actually noticing across industries. So Ironside is industry agnostic, and I work in a lot of different industries. Insurance is a deep pocket for us where we do a lot. But convenience is something I'm noticing in retail and everywhere. This is a big theme. Convenience for customers is becoming almost more important than the experience itself. It used to be that everyone wanted to provide the best customer experience. And nowadays, even before COVID, but maybe more so since then, convenience is becoming very, very important. Things need to move quickly. Claims need to be processed very quickly. They want answers right away. And there's more and more demand for that. Again, that's a huge opportunity for AI to come in and help solve that issue. So I'm going to talk about 4 areas where we're seeing a lot of AI success. First is process automation. So just looking at claims processing, as I said, that there's a lot of data, it's got to move through the system, and machine learning has shown itself to be successful at very quickly detecting levels of risk and then auto routing that to the appropriate teams. So it reduces the need for individuals to mine through all of that. And this is an area where image detection and MLP have been very successful. A lot of unstructured data. So someone can submit a picture, and this is, some companies are doing this immediately on the spot. You get into a car accident, you can submit a claim, send in a picture, and get an immediate assessment of some of the damage. It might be early and preliminary, but you get some assistance based on that image right away. Long term, that's still going to help the claims adjusters understand the level of risk by getting that machine learning assessment of it, and just move it through the system much quicker. And natural language processing, again, takes all those unstructured text and turns it into meaning. So a lot of claims information might just be writing about what happened, and the machine learning has the ability through natural language processing to pull meaning out of that, specifically to assess risk and severity. And with the image detection, we're going to talk about that some more, but the image recognition market is growing rapidly from 16 billion in 2016 to an expected 39 billion in 2021. And that's across industries, of course, but insurance is definitely taking advantage of that themselves. So we'll talk about that more a little bit in the next area. Another way that processes can be expedited is through chatbots. So I think we've all probably had the experience of calling a company and you get that robot and you get really frustrated and you're just yelling, human, I need a human at the phone, right? NLP has come a long way since that, and chatbots are especially being picked up everywhere, especially younger generations. We do some work in higher education as well, and chatbots are being used a lot there. So people are putting them into place to help students understand where to find their next class and how to pay a bill and how to link up with their advisor. Chatbots don't have the resistance that the phone robots used to, and even those are getting much, much better. So the ability to take in text or speech and turn that into a meaningful form of data for machine learning to be able to give back the correct answer and in a way that is natural and seems like a human has come a long way. There's a ton of money being invested in this area. Another estimate, I believe by Gartner, predicts that by 2021, which is not that far away now, more than 50% of enterprises, and again, that's across industry, will be spending more per year on bots and chatbots creations than traditional mobile app developments. So huge opportunity here to take advantage of chatbots, to provide convenience, to get claims processed much faster, to get answers and quotes to people in the time they need. That's good for customer retention. It's good for eliminating cost and waste internally. So it's a win-win for everyone. Now, another area of process automation is in the post-payment recovery side. Now here it's been estimated that there's $15 billion sitting there in potential savings. And the benefit of post-claims recovery is that the pressure is kind of off, right? So you've paid the claim, it's already done. Now the only downside is the time that employees spend digging through claims looking for opportunities for subrogation, where they can find a third party who's liable and try to recover some of those funds back. Now, by using machine learning, you can really reduce or even eliminate in some cases that human effort to dig through thousands upon thousands of claims and find those that might be applicable for third-party liability. So I actually have an example here where we did that, helping an health insurance company look for cases where the injury was due to an auto accident, right? So then they can go back to the auto insurance and expect them to pay back some of those fees. In this case, we used a mix of machine learning and some clustering algorithms to look at diagnostic codes and found patterns where certain diagnostic codes came together that were indicative of an auto accident. It was quite successful and provided a lot of savings in a few different ways. So this particular organization had a very large subrogation team that would go through all of these claims that had already been paid, looking for ones that could potentially be sent to an auto insurer for payment recovery. When they found those that were really highly likely and they felt like they had a good case, those would go to a more expensive team of resources that would carry that on. Machine learning allowed them to really jump over that step of a lot of people spending a lot of hours digging through them by running all those SIM claims through a machine learning algorithm, instantly getting probability scores of being auto accidents, and then being able to take the top decile. So you're only examining 10% of what you were before, and that 10% is very, very likely, right? So you've reduced your false positives that you're sending to this more expensive team, and you're getting more benefit out of it and reducing the internal waste and cost. So that's an example of where AI was used in subrogation to recover some funds. So the second area is pricing and marketing, and a lot of opportunity here. The claim risk scoring is a case study I'll talk about more in a little bit, but in this case, the goal was to provide underwriters with more information about policy renewals. And the underwriters didn't really have a lot of information. They gathered it from a lot of different places. And we started this engagement with actually an experience design phase where we had our experience designers go in and shadow the underwriters and interview them and really understand the questions that they asked and how they would use this information to change the way they did their job. The number one question that these underwriters were asking is, will this insured have a claim in the future? That's what they needed to know. And this was malpractice insurance. So there were very long lags of when a claim could come in. It could be 10 years later. And it's really hard for them to make that assessment at that time, but it's important for them to be able to apply the appropriate credits and debits and keep that price realistic, but also competitive. So I'm going to come back to that on the next slide and show you how that worked. And then there's personalized pricing and marketing. There are a lot of different machine learning methodologies that are used in this area. So customer segmentation is one, propensity modeling. That could be scoring the probability that an individual will respond to a marketing campaign or that they will respond through a specific marketing channel. And then there's life event predictions. If you can predict and anticipate a customer's changes in life events, then you can better assess what products might be applicable to them and reach out and provide other offers. So that can feed into like recommendation engines as well. Customer churn, or in this case, maybe policy non-renewals. So instead of being reactive and seeing that you're losing a customer and kind of being too late because they didn't renew their policy, now you can anticipate that they're showing signs that they may not renew, and you can anticipate that and be proactive with an offer for them to stay. Along with convenience, personalization for customers is another big theme I think people are seeing across industry. Customers want things personalized for them. They want to know that the price that they're getting is more specific to them, getting personalized offers they're more likely to respond to. So this is a very big area for insurance, but also in other industries. Now, the last one has been a really exciting move is behavior-based pricing. So this is using image detection and computer vision for things like safe driver discount, right? So you sign up for this and put a dashboard cam in, and that camera is sending data to a machine learning algorithm or an AI app that is picking up on distracted driving behaviors, right? And so you get these rewards if you go so long showing safe behaviors, and your policy might change and go up if you're doing a lot of distracted behavior. Now, there's the old saying that what you track, you change, right? And that's why you wear your Fitbit, because if you're tracking number of steps you take, you're gonna put more effort into changing those. If you know that you're tracking your safe driving behaviors, people are more conscious of that and putting more effort into it. So this is a win-win-win for everyone. It's a win for the insurance company because they're managing risk and applying pricing in a smart way. Customer knows that they're getting a discount. They feel great about that. They're driving safe and they get a discount for that. And it's actually been shown to decrease distracted driving behaviors. So a win for everybody. So back to that example of predicting malpractice claims risk. This model was actually, I think initially we were going to predict a slightly different metric, but it was after going through that experience design and observing the underwriters and the types of questions they ask and them saying, I just need to know how likely they are to have a claim in the next 3, 5, 10 years, whatever. That's what's going to help me better price a policy. And so we adapted that. And I think that's an important key to think about, not just doing AI for the sake of AI, but talking to the end user. How are they going to use this model? What are they going to do with it? What questions do they need answered? So this model looked at predicting a claim in the next 3 to 5 years after a policy renewal. The underwriters, along with that, we delivered an entire underwriter workbench because they were getting information from a lot of disparate systems. So this is also an example of how Ironside's various centers of excellence kind of came together on this. We had developers build a dashboard for them, a workbench that they could examine all of the information. And actually, I'll just jump to it and show you an image. This is the mock-up. But just having a workbench, a place to see some of the descriptive information about that policy holder, some of their work history and claims history. So all of this is historical descriptive information. And if you scroll down in that, you would get the darker view, which is the predictive forward-looking. So they were able to see this physician has a 16% chance of having a claim in the next 3 years, 44% risk in the next 5 years. In the final product, we actually added some benchmarking information so they would understand that, you know, that's actually much higher than average, for example. And then there's suggested premium ranges. Of course, those are constrained by a lot of business rules. But one of the things the underwriters told us is that I have to have transparent and explainable AI. I can't go to someone and say your policy went up this year because AI told me it should go up, right? And so we always provide with that explanation or key factors. Here it shows 3, but in the final product we had 6, and these are specific to that individual. So your policy went up, and here's why. Here's 6 reasons. Some of it might be your specialty, which doesn't change over time, but it's high risk, and that goes into coming up with that risk score. Some of it might be you had a claim in the last year, and so that's going to impact your risk score. So again, just empowering the underwriter with more information and a better ability to do their job and to do it quicker by having all of this right there in front of them, understanding both the past and the future. So this isn't about automating away underwriting, it's about empowering them to make better decisions. Okay, the third area where we're seeing a lot of success is in fraud detection. Fraud costs the insurance industry over $40 billion annually. So there are a lot of organizations focusing just here. The tricky thing about fraud is that despite the large price tag, it happens rarely. And so, you know, relatively rarely compared to all claims, it's hard to find that. Machine learning has a harder time finding very rare events. The more rare, the more difficult it is. But there are some approaches to being able to do that. One is you can just build a machine learning algorithm and reduce the number of claims that you're looking through. So instead of combing through all of them looking for fraud, you at least, again, have maybe that top 10 decile of risk or top 10% risk. So you can reduce what you're combing through. There's also anomaly detection techniques that you use to train a machine to say, this is what's normal. If you see anything in here, that's good. If you see anything outside of that, flag that as potential fraud. And the other interesting approach that people are using are social networking analytics. Because most of the time fraud, excuse me, fraud is opportunistic, and it's just someone trying to get a little bit more here or hiding some small factor. But there are professional frauders out there, and there are rings of them. And so it's really hard to pick up on the fact that two seemingly unrelated claims are actually related to each other, or maybe 10 or 100 of those claims. And so when you use network analytics, you can see these common threads and common patterns and pick up on maybe some kind of crime ring is probably a drastic term, but it's the same kind of thing, a fraud ring. Maybe there's one body shop that everyone goes to because they know that they'll get higher estimates. So this is an area where AI has proven to be very successful as well. And the last one is claims litigation. This is probably newer and not used quite as much, but it's recently gotten a lot of interest, especially in studying social inflation. So these much larger nuclear verdicts, it's much easier to get multi-million-dollar verdict awards than it was 10 or 20 years ago. And understanding that and having foresight into the outcomes of litigation can help a team make more informed and better decisions about whether or not to settle out of court. Now, as far back as 2004, it was shown that an algorithm could accurately predict the outcome of Supreme Court decisions better than experts could. So that's very promising, I think, and very reassuring to teams that are trying to use this to predict those outcomes, to use that foresight. They can predict what the outcomes would be, settlement amounts, expenses, right, and then make an informed decision about what they should do in that case. There's also here, again, a lot of third-party information where you could better understand the demographics of an area that would make up a jurisdiction, maybe where their sensitivities may lie. So that can be applied as well. So that's kind of everything I wanted to go through. Again, AI is disrupting the insurance industry, but I don't want that to sound like this is a new upcoming thing. I think insurance is one of the industries where AI has already gotten a lot of traction and is moving and being very successful, whereas some other industries are still trying to get the feel of where and how it would fit into their organization. So it's becoming more and more important that insurance organizations adopt AI and start to look into how they could use machine learning to remain competitive. And some of the key areas where we've seen a lot of success are process automation, pricing and marketing, and personalization, specifically fraud, and then perhaps also in claim litigation. So I'm going to pause there. Thank you for listening to everything. And we'll open it up to questions. Debbie will allow you to unmute yourself if you'd like to speak up and ask a question. You can also type it right into the chat box, and we can read them aloud. Let me just give you a minute.
Yeah, thank you, Pam, and please do add your questions into the question or chat window. We do have one. Of all of the use cases which you've just presented, which is the best place to start for an organization that's sort of new to AI?
That's a good question, and I think it really varies by organization. It's important to not just look at what data you have and trying to solve a problem for the sake of solving a problem. I would start at the top and look at your organization and your goals for the upcoming year. What are the KPIs that are important to your leadership? What are the challenges that you're having? And look to use AI there. Process automation does tend to be an area where it's easier to build and implement, but also some of the things like natural language processing and image detection are also a little bit more complex. So I wouldn't make those your pilot. So I think maybe those are some bounds. It's going to depend on your organization. Process automation is a good place to start, but I'd start with more standard machine learning technology just to get your foot in the door and to get up and running.
Thanks. And we have one more. You mentioned third-party data. What type of data have you used for AI and insurance?
Good question. So there's a lot out there. We've had a lot of success working with Precisely data, but there's a number of sources. So in Malpractice, the organization we worked with already had a lot of third-party data, EMR records and things on physicians. PNC insurance, there's a lot out there through Precisely and others on location data, on property attributes, understanding the home. Usually there's far more attributes. I know Precisely's property attributes has a lot more detail than any insurance company that I've seen internally. So that can help with just understanding probabilities of risk and damage. There's social data out there that can also come into play in a number of ways. Yeah, I think also with the property attributes, I was thinking of residential and home, but in commercial as well, and understanding traffic through an area, whether a business is kind of pushed back from the street or right on it, part of a strip or external. So there's quite a bit of crime data I've also used. So I think it's kind of endless, the opportunities, and I think insurance is an industry that knows how to take advantage of that and how to bring in third-party data and make themselves more informed.
Thanks, Pam. While we wait and see if there's other questions from the audience, could you just comment on Ascend AI and our data science as a service as a way of getting started?
Yeah, that's been really successful for organizations who are new to AI. It's a way of leveraging our infrastructure, our resources, and some of our IP to accelerate getting up and running with AI. So instead of starting with what technology do I buy and how do I get a data scientist, we can do all of that on our infrastructure and either host and manage the AI solution long term or shift it over to your infrastructure if that's your long-term goal as well. So Ascend AI has been really helpful, and we're doing that in insurance and other areas.
Great. I think that's all we have for today.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for joining, and I look forward to sharing some more information next time.
And remember, if anyone wants to talk with Pam and talk about your specific situation, there is a talk one-to-one button on the website, or just reach out and send us an email.
Thank you, everyone.